For decades, there's been this conspiracy theory kicking around online, a story about a trail of suspicious deaths all connected to one powerful political family. Now, today, we're not going to try and prove it or debunk it. Instead, we're going to unpack how it's built, and we're going to use one of its most influential source documents as our guide.
And it all kicks off with this single sentence. This is the claim you see right at the very top of the document. And honestly, it's the engine for the entire theory that's about to unfold.
And that one claim, well, that's the bedrock of the whole Clinton body count theory. The basic idea is that there's this long and supposedly growing pattern of very suspicious deaths that are all somehow linked to the family. So let's be super clear. Our goal here isn't to get into whether the theory is true or not. Think of us more like information detectives. We're here to examine how this whole narrative gets constructed, what kind of evidence it uses, and the techniques it uses to persuade you, all by looking directly at the source itself. Okay, so before we even get to the names on the list, we have to ask a really important question. Where is all this information coming from? What kind of world does it live in? Because, context is everything. So the list itself lives on a website called What Really Happened, and it presents itself as the place to go for news and information that, you're not going to find in the mainstream media. It covers pretty much everything, from political scandals to deep historical conspiracies. And to build up some trust with you, the reader, the site shows off awards like the one you're seeing. This is a classic move, right? It's a way of signaling to the audience, hey, this isn't just some random blog post. We're a respected voice in this world of conspiracy research. Now, this is fascinating. Just look at the ads that are running right alongside the list. You've got ads for buying gold and silver, ads for immigration services. That tells you a lot, doesn't it? It gives us a huge clue about who the target audience is, probably people who are pretty distrustful of the big, traditional financial and political systems. And that distrust, well, it funnels right into politics. And the site doesn't hide it at all. There's a note on the page that says, plain as day, it was updated for Hillary's 2016 run. So this tells us the list isn't meant to be just some historical document. It's being actively presented as a tool to influence a live election. So how does the list actually try to convince you? It doesn't do it with one big bombshell. Nah, it does it one story at a time, presenting these individual deaths that, when you stack them all up, are supposed to reveal this really sinister pattern. All right, let's start with a really big name from the list, Ron Brown. And we're not talking about some low-level staffer here. This guy was the Secretary of Commerce, a seriously powerful figure in the Clinton administration. And right here, you can see the formula they use laid out perfectly. See how it moves? It starts with a known fact, his job, then the circumstance of his death, a plane crash. But then it pivots, introducing an unproven allegation and a claim to plant a seed of doubt. It frames his death as just incredibly convenient. Then, bam, the narrative immediately cranks up the suspicion. This is a classic persuasion trick. By putting his lawyer's murder right after Brown's death, it creates this powerful, implied connection without ever actually having to prove a thing. Okay, next case. This one takes us back to the Clintons' time in Arkansas. This is Gandhi Baugh, an attorney who was representing a major financial supporter of then-Governor Clinton. And just check out the language here. They don't just say he died by suicide. They say it was an alleged suicide. That one little word is so simple, but it's a really powerful tool. It's designed to make you question the official story and open your mind to a darker explanation. And here we go again, building that pattern, just like they did with Ron Brown. The list immediately links Baugh's death to another one, his law partner, who died just 1 month later. The message couldn't be clearer. Is this another coincidence? Or are you starting to see the pattern here? Now, this list isn't just ancient history. To make sure it feels fresh and relevant, it includes more recent deaths too. A perfect example is John Ash, a former high-ranking official at the United Nations who died back in 2016. And the formula just repeats itself. You've got a powerful person, a really bizarre death, a barbell accident, really? And then the critical piece, the timing. The source claims he was set to testify in a case that could have been damaging on the very day he died. I mean, the implication there is pretty hard to miss. So you get the idea. The list just goes on and on like this with dozens of these individual stories. But what happens when you step back and look at all of them together? What is the big picture this document is trying to paint for you? Well, what's really interesting is that the document is very, very careful. It almost never comes right out and explicitly accuses anyone of murder.
Instead, the whole argument is built through suggestion, through implication, and just by the sheer number of cases it throws at you. So when you break it all down, the logic they're using is pretty simple, but boy, is it effective. First, you take an official report and you make it sound questionable with a single word. Then, you link completely unrelated events just by pointing out how close together they happened. And finally, you frame every single victim as someone who knew too much, creating a story where every death seems to serve a dark purpose.
So in the end, the real power here isn't in some single smoking gun piece of evidence. No, it's in the pileup of stories. It plays on our brain's natural desire to find patterns in the chaos. The argument is simple. One strange death? Okay, maybe that's a coincidence. But 50? Well, the narrative suggests that has to be a conspiracy.
And this leaves us with a really critical question, not just about this list, but about everything we see online. When you come across a story that presents a compelling, maybe even sinister-looking pattern, the most important thing to do is analyze the storyteller. Who is connecting these dots for you? How are they doing it? And maybe most importantly, what information might they be choosing to leave out? Asking those questions, that's the foundation of thinking critically.